Assalamu alaikum, kids. So in this video, I'm going to discuss how to use head to tail rule to add vectors. All right. So again, the idea is very simple. The first thing that we need to do to add vectors is to scale a vector. So let's take an example. You've got a man who travels 6 kilometers north and 8 kilometers east, and you need to draw a diagram to find the displacement of the man and the direction. All right, so well, like we discussed, the sequence of adding vectors is: first you are going to do what? You are going to scale the vector. Second, we are going to determine the directions, and then third, we are going to do what? We are going to use head to tail rule. Now, because your displacement is 6 kilometers and 8 kilometers, so you can easily use the scale 1 centimeter is 1 kilometer. Why? Because it's going to give you 8 centimeters and 6 centimeters as lengths of the arrows, which are in between the 4 to 10 limit that I mentioned earlier in the previous video. So finding out the length of the two vectors A and B, it's going to be 6 centimeters and 8 centimeters. Now we need to draw them. All right, so we are going to draw vector A first, which is going north 6 kilometers, which is represented by an arrow of length 6 centimeters. So this is what we have in front of us. Now, as per head to tail rule, what you are going to do is simple. After you've drawn the first vector, you are going to start drawing the second vector from its head. So I'm going to draw the second vector from here, from this head of the first vector. All right, so I'm going to now draw the vector B. Again, you put a scale and you draw a length of 8 centimeters to as your second vector and in the east direction. But like I said, you start drawing from the end of the first vector. So now I have the two vectors, vector A and vector B. All right, now the next step is to find out the resultant vector. The resultant vector is the sum of the magnitudes of the two vectors. So what am I going to do? I'm going to draw the tail. I'm going to use the tail of the first vector and the head of the second vector, and I'm going to draw the resultant vector. So from the tail of the first vector that you drew to the head of the second vector that you do. All right, so I'm going to put a scale and I'm going to draw this line right here. So a fairly simple idea: tail of the first with the head of the second. Now, had I drawn vector B first and then A, would it have mattered? No. Again, it does not matter in which sequence you are drawing your vectors, as long as you join the tail of the first vector with the head of the second vector. Now I have this resultant vector in front of me. I can see that it's almost 10 centimeters. So I'm just going to consider it to be 10 centimeters. And then what am I going to do? I'm going to use my scale, 10 centimeters. So 1 centimeter is 1 kilometer. So 10 centimeters would be 10 kilometers. All right, so that's the magnitude of my resultant vector, but our job is not done yet. All right, we found out the magnitude of the resultant vector, but we still need to find out the direction. Okay, that's very important as well. So I'm going to place my protractor, all right, such that 0 is along the north. Okay, so I place my protractor and my 0 is along the north, and then from there I measure the angle. So it's a little more than 52. So it's in between 52 and 53, but it's closer to 53. So I'm going to say that the angle is bearing 053. Again, you measure the bearing and not the angle only. All right, so this is how you are finally going to add vectors. Now, of course, if I'm going to add vectors which are in perpendicular direction, so north and east is perpendicular to each other, I can use Pythagoras theorem to verify my magnitude, and I can use basic trigonometry also to verify the angle that I got. All right, so that's something that you need to remember. Okay, so it's okay. Again, the question or the syllabus requires you to draw the diagrams, but you should use the Pythagoras theorem to verify, and the sine and the cosine rules if they are not perpendicular to each other. All right, so I hope that all the previous 4 videos leading up to the head to tail rule made sense to everyone. Okay, so I'll see you in the next one. Bars out.